The time is counting down with John Cena now in single digits when it comes to WWE dates left before he decides to retire for good. John Cena announced last year at Money in the Bank 2024 that 2025 was going to be his retirement year as a babyface, as a heel. Now back to being a babyface again. Cena has just 7 dates left before he calls it quits on his in-ring career for WWE. With that being said, John Cena recently has opened up and said that actually there are a lot of people he won't get to wrestle before he decides to retire. In this countdown video, we're going to talk about 5 names that John Cena won't face before he retires for good. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everybody is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. And in today's countdown video, we're going to be talking about John Cena, who has just 7 dates left at the time recording this video before he retires as an active in-ring WWE superstar. Now, Cena recently, after a victory against Logan Paul at WWE Clash in Paris, got the world talking because he said that he's now started to incorporate some moves that maybe you don't really expect to see John Cena pull off. Why is he incorporating these moves? Well, it's actually to pay tribute to some of the most influential pro wrestlers on his career that he's not going to be able to share the ring with once again. During this retirement run, we've seen him resume rivalries against the likes of CM Punk and Randy Orton. But he's not able to face everyone from his storied past, so he's got to shout them out in the matches. For instance, he did mention after Clash in Paris, this is a direct quote from Cena, he said, quote, "I've had a lot of opponents over the years, and with 8 at the time then, appearances left, I know I'm not going to be able to wrestle everybody who was influential in my career. But I think you saw tonight the best way I can say thank you to some of those people who affected my career is to kind of pay homage by maybe taking some risks and doing some stuff that I don't normally do out there." With that being said, who is Cena not going to face off against and maybe pay tribute to? We'll let you know. Let's begin with AJ Styles. He's really one of the first names that's kind of been spoken about recently when it comes to Cena not facing off against them in his remaining dates. Of course, John Cena, as I mentioned, at the time recording this video, has just 7 dates left in his WWE career. What's currently left at the time recording is September 5th, a WWE Raw in Lowell, Massachusetts. September 20th, it's going to be WWE WrestlePalooza, where he's facing off against Brock Lesnar in Indianapolis, Indiana. October 11th, he's advertised for WWE Crown Jewel in Perth, Australia. November 10th, Raw from Boston, Massachusetts. November 17th, WWE Raw from Madison Square Garden in New York. November 29th, WWE Survivor Series from San Diego, California. And December 13th is going to be his retirement match. While it's not yet been officially confirmed, it has been reported that's going to take place at the Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. Those are the 7 dates left, and it looks like AJ Styles is not going to be fitting into that. Now, why? Your guess is really as good as mine. I mean, you do look at those dates left, and you could say, wow, surely he could face off against AJ on an episode of Raw. AJ Styles is on Raw. I mean, Cena at this point isn't booked for any more SmackDowns. He's booked for 1, 2, 3, at least 3 Raws before he retires. And who's to say he's not going to have a match every single time? More often than not, he's probably going to cut a promo. But we did see in the last couple of appearances that he did on SmackDown, he did compete in some surprise matches against Sami Zayn in a United States Championship Open Challenge. He also competed in a tag team match. So you can't necessarily completely rule out the possibility that Cena could actually face AJ on these episodes of Raw. You feel like if it was going to happen, maybe that's where it's going to happen. You don't think Cena's retirement match is going to be against AJ, but given the fact that Cena's actually pulling off some of Styles' moves in his matches, that would imply that Cena, at least, is under the impression he's not going to face AJ before he retires. Now, in his most recent PLE match, which was against Logan Paul at Clash in Paris, Cena actually utilized the Styles Clash. It wasn't enough to get the job done. Logan Paul kicked out. Cena did go on to win the match. And after the show, on the Clash in Paris post-show, he straight up said, quote, "I gotta shout out AJ," when referencing the move that he used in the match. Of course, AJ Styles and John Cena have had numerous classic matches together, I think back in 2016 into early 2017. And in WWE, it felt like John Cena really helped put AJ Styles on the map. Yes, you would talk about obviously his debut at the Royal Rumble. There was still some uncertainty about how Vince McMahon felt about him at the time. Of course, then he worked with Roman Reigns right after WrestleMania, and Reigns had just won the WWE Championship, and that did show that there was at least some faith, and he had some fantastic matches, but it was really once he had that feud with Cena, and particularly for me, their match at SummerSlam 2016, AJ Styles hitting the phenomenal forearm, beating him clean as a whistle in the middle of the ring. Right there, you can see it. That felt like a major moment. Not long after that, AJ Styles was WWE Champion on SmackDown, which I think goes to show just how important it was to Vince McMahon to see AJ just continuously work so great. Now, they have faced off a few times since then, but really, of course, actually, AJ Styles was very important when it comes to Cena becoming the record equaling 16-time WWE Champion. John Cena defeated AJ Styles for the WWE title at the Royal Rumble in 2017, but it looks like we're not going to see Cena versus Styles one more time, which is unfortunate, even though both talents aren't in their prime anymore. You feel like just given the ring generals that they are and given the high-quality matches that they can still have, you feel like they'd be able to pull it out the bag. And it's a shame maybe it didn't happen in France, considering AJ Styles is always getting these huge ovations in France, and Cena, of course, the last time he was ever in Paris was for Clash in Paris. You feel like that would have maybe been the perfect spot there. They didn't decide to go down that route. Instead, they went with Cena Logan Paul, and time's running out for it to be Cena versus AJ Styles. Now, before we go on to the next name on this list in today's countdown video, a reminder, this video is brought to you in collaboration with all of our affiliates. You can find out all the information on them in the video description below. They'll be pinned in the comment section. You'll see them throughout the video on the sidebar. You can get yourself some great products, you can save yourself some money, and you can support the channel in the process. Your support really is always appreciated. Let's move on and talk about Cesaro. Now, in that very same Clash in Paris PLE match against Logan Paul, we actually saw Logan Paul hit a Cesaro-esque uppercut. So much so, actually got shouted out on commentary by Michael Cole. He even said Cesaro, which many people went, that's interesting, because Claudio Castagnoli, who of course was Cesaro, is in AEW. You don't often get AEW names shouted out. You do sometimes, but not often. And it felt certainly like Michael Cole was kind of shoehorning it into that, and it led people at the time to speculate, is Cesaro going to be coming back to WWE? Is that the plan here? Probably not. It was more a case of Michael Cole being told to put it in there, maybe because Cena wanted it in there, because as we saw throughout the match, not only was there a Cesaro-esque uppercut in the corner, but maybe an even more obvious nod to the former United States champion was Logan Paul hitting the sort of elevated uppercut where he throws the opponent up in the air and hits the big uppercut. A very move that actually Cesaro hit on John Cena on an episode of Raw in that aforementioned United States Championship Open Challenge back in 2015. It's been widely documented. Cesaro and Cena are actually quite good friends, and Cena always wanted to work with Cesaro and always was an advocate to try and get him featured high up the card in WWE, was a big fan of his. And you feel like Cena and Cesaro, if they faced off today, they'd continue to have a barn burner, but unfortunately it's not possible considering that, as I mentioned, he's no longer called Cesaro because he's going by Claudio Castagnoli in AEW/Ring of Honor, and there hasn't been any inclination that Claudio Castagnoli could be returning to WWE as imminently to face off against Cena one more time. Remember, he'd have to be back in WWE between now and December, and that doesn't look like it's going to happen. Anything's possible in pro wrestling, but Cesaro versus Cena one more time feels very unlikely, doesn't it? Let's move on and talk about Chris Jericho, another AEW name, which as of right now, it's not possible for him to face off against John Cena in WWE. Now, if Cena was wrestling into 2026, then maybe this would be a completely different conversation. There have been rumors and reports linking Chris Jericho with a move back to WWE after his AEW contract expires, but from all of the reports, the suggestion is that Jericho is signed with AEW through the remainder of 2025, at least to the closing days of it. Then Jericho may very well go back to WWE. There are a lot of reports linking him there. There are rumors that people in WWE expect him to go back there, and there have even been suggestions maybe he could appear at the Royal Rumble in Saudi in January. But as of right now, it would not be possible for him to have one more match with Cena because they're in different companies. We haven't seen Chris Jericho on AEW television since April, but we're not going to see him back on WWE TV in time for him to face Cena between now and the end of the year. Now, as far as their history, of course, there's so much history between Jericho and John Cena. I think back to John Cena, one of his first, if not his first pay-per-view match was against who? Chris Jericho on Vengeance in 2002. And Jericho actually tells the story that he had to push and he had to be an advocate for Cena to actually beat him in that aforementioned pay-per-view match, because he felt that him beating Cena did nothing, but actually Cena beating him helped elevate the talent. Now, when Cena went on to become WWE Champion later on, it was actually his first WWE title feud on Raw back in 2005. Of course, Cena won the WWE Championship back at WrestleMania 21 in 2005, but there was a little bit of time there when the champion switched over as part of the draft, and when Cena came over to Raw and was really cemented as the face of the company, his first WWE Championship feud was with Chris Jericho. It would actually be Chris Jericho putting over John Cena on the way out of the company. He would be gone for 2 years until he came back in 2007, and actually in 2008, a World Heavyweight Champion, Chris Jericho, dropped the WWE World Heavyweight Championship to a returning John Cena at the Survivor Series pay-per-view that year. That was after Cena came back from neck surgery. His first match back against Jericho, World Heavyweight title, Boston, Massachusetts, Survivor Series, and Cena was victorious. So they faced off a bunch of times throughout their career in notable world title feuds. So certainly you feel like Jericho, Cena, they've got history. They've always been very friendly with each other. Jericho's always gone out of his way to try and help John Cena, particularly earlier on in his career. And Jericho would be all over anything that can get him as much in the spotlight as possible, right? So it would have been something that made sense. Of course, when it was Cena's, I think, 25th anniversary or whenever it was a few years ago or a few years back. Was it 20th anniversary? I forget. I think it was 20th anniversary. Yeah, it would have been in 2022. Jericho is one of those AEW stars that actually was able to send in a video message congratulating Cena on his 20th anniversary in WWE. So he's always been one to congratulate John Cena, but they're not going to have one final match. Let's move on and talk about Edge. Of course, when you talk about John Cena and greatest opponents in WWE, Edge would absolutely have to be on that list. You know, the phrase, a new one at the moment, isn't it, is wrestling soulmates. Who is person X's wrestling soulmate? And I think when you talk about John Cena's wrestling soulmates, he has so many of them because, of course, he's had so many unbelievable feuds throughout his career. But I think of Randy Orton, I think of CM Punk, and I think of Edge. Who else would maybe go onto that list? You could maybe sort of talk about maybe an AJ Styles, maybe one of Shawn Michaels or the Undertaker. Shawn Michaels or Triple H, maybe. That one. But really, if you're going to go for Mount Rushmore, you probably would go with Randy Orton, CM Punk, Edge, and maybe AJ Styles. They could be the four that you're talking about there. And Edge, of course, won his first WWE Championship, cashing in on who? John Cena. They had numerous times where they dropped the WWE Championship to each other and against each other. They had matches in Edge's hometown, Toronto, Canada, in Unforgiven 2006, table, ladders, and chairs, and F you off the top of the ladder. We've had WrestleMania matches involving them and the Big Show. That was, of course, at WrestleMania 25 in 2009. Following month, Edge defeats Cena for the world title at Backlash when the Big Show chokeslams him through a spotlight. Edge won his second WWE Championship, defeating John Cena and Rob Van Dam on an episode of Raw. I mean, there is so much. There was Cena throwing Edge into the Long Island Sound, all the stuff with Lita, Vicky Guerrero. I mean, again, the guys are wrestling soulmates. So when you talk about a John Cena retirement run and maybe playing the greatest hits and going up against opponents he hasn't gone up against in quite some time, I think maybe a couple of years ago, you're going, wow, Cena Edge one more time, that would be great. But unfortunately, Edge is no longer under contract with WWE as of when he went to AEW in 2023. He signed a multi-year deal there, and he's currently no longer Edge. Edge is no more in WWE. Edge had his, I guess, WWE retirement match in, August of 2023 against Sheamus on an episode of SmackDown from Toronto. Then he moved to AEW. He's a two-time AEW tag team, TNT champion. He's currently teaming up with Christian Cage. Might become a tag team champion in the future. What's on the brain? But they had a legendary rivalry, and it doesn't look like we're going to get one final chapter in that. But I suppose you could make an argument, does it need a final chapter? Maybe not, but certainly you can see him paying tribute by hitting a spear. I don't think he was necessarily paying tribute to Roman Reigns in his recent match. That's probably more towards Edge. And finally, this one isn't possible because he's retired and he's not physically able to do it. But it would have been appropriate, wouldn't it? It really would have been appropriate. Let's say if John Cena's retirement match was against a Kurt Angle. Of course, we do know that Kurt Angle wanted his WWE retirement match to be against John Cena at WrestleMania 35 back in 2019. He had pitched it, he wanted it, but Vince McMahon told Kurt Angle, I'll give you Cena next year, but I need you to wrap up this feud with Baron Corbin. Cena said, Cena obviously was on that WrestleMania was against Elias, not in a match, just in a segment. But also, Kurt Angle said, I can't do another year. Physically, I'm not able to do it, so I can't have that retirement match. Now, they did technically face off, as you can see right there, upon Kurt Angle's return to WWE in 2017. It was at that year's edition of Survivor Series as a Team Raw and versus Team SmackDown. Cena was part of Team SmackDown, of course. Kurt Angle was the general manager of Raw, so they did technically face off one last time. Really, the history, though, when it comes to Cena and Kurt Angle, is the fact that John Cena's WWE debut was on an episode of SmackDown in 2002. Kurt Angle said, anyone in the back who thinks they've got ruthless aggression, come out here. And John Cena comes out. No one's like knowing who he is. Who the hell is that guy? It's John Cena. What's your name? He says, I'm John Cena. And what one quality do you think you possess that makes you think you can last with Kurt Angle? Ruthless aggression, slap in the face, and they're off to the races. And then suddenly that's history, isn't it? And after John Cena started to actually find the different gimmick, Dr. Thugonomics, they faced off multiple times in 2003. You think about how they faced each other at No Mercy. I believe that was at that time. The following year, that was when Kurt Angle actually beat Cena to be the number one contender to that year's WrestleMania. Cena eventually became the number one contender to get to WrestleMania by defeating Kurt Angle in 2005. Then, when Cena was WWE champion on Raw, Kurt Angle was drafted over and they had a feud. Cena inducted Angle into the Hall of Fame when Angle returned in 2017. There's just so much history there. And yeah, it would have been great for that maybe to be Cena's retirement match or one of the final matches to really sort of, again, pay tribute to Cena's career, to kind of really bookend it where this is how it started, is exactly how it's going to end, Cena versus Angle. But Kurt Angle's on the record that even if he wanted to, and he would be legally able to, he's not under contract to any other company. I think he's under a Legends deal with WWE. He just physically can't do it. Kurt Angle, he recently gave an update on his health. He said that he retired because of his health in 2019. And for the longest time, there was consideration he wouldn't even be able to get cleared by WWE if he wanted to come back. His neck is so bad. He mentions, as of now, he's got no feeling in either of his pinkies. He can't even have neck fusion surgery or disc replacement surgery. All of his neck is completely fused now. He doesn't have any discs left between his vertebrae. He was saying it is what it is. He's got motor skills. He says for that he does feel in pretty good shape as best as he can. I think he's had knee replacements and what have you. But there's nothing he can do with his neck injuries, and he wouldn't even want to. I think he tells a story actually where recently he filmed some ad for a football team. And he actually took bumps in it. He took bumps. He got the singlet back on and he took bumps. And he said he was in agonizing pain. And his wife said, no, not going to have it. So Cena versus Angle, I don't know if we would even want to see it in 2025, honestly, considering where they're both at physically and with their age. I'm not sure it would really harken back to their matches in the mid-2000s. But I would like to see maybe Kurt Angle get involved before Cena retires, even if it was an appearance or Angle being in his corner or a promo or something. You just feel that would be appropriate, wouldn't it? So there you go, guys. There are 5 names. We will not face off against John Cena as part of this retirement tour. What do you think of them? Let me know your thoughts. Which one do you think is the biggest missed out of all of it? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know other names that you think I've missed or matches that will happen. There's still time. Let me know your thoughts about it as always in the comment section below. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe. Bottom right hand corner. And I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.